Allegheny County to order, and if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Walt, could you take roll call?
Yes. Frank DeCristofaro. Here. Sarah Innamorato. Kimberly Joyce.
Here.
Jennifer Liptak. Here. Corey O'Connor. Here. Sarah Roca. Here. President Brustlers.
Present. Are there any public comment?
There is.
Ooh. How many are there? One. Please join us.
So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. My name is Rick Schneider. I'm a certified financial planner specializing in municipal pensions with Edward Jones. Edward Jones has been around for just over 100 years, managing about $2.3 trillion in assets. And this is an article I just wanted to share with you all. I'm not here to present any great data, but just to share some education. That article is from what's called the CFA Institute. The CFA Institute presides over a designation in my industry. It's the highest designation in the industry. It's called a CFA. And this is an article they wrote where they did a study on pension funds and endowment funds. And there's been a trend with how these funds have been managed beginning in the 90s with Ivy League endowments. And it talks about how it worked then and how it's working now. So please read that article. My business card's on there. If you have any questions, I'd love to help. But I just came to pass out some information today and begin to build a relationship with Allegheny County. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We can recognize that Member Innamorato has joined us. Next, with the President's update. Present. Okay. Present. Update on the working group on plan funding and modernization. We met on May 2nd. The group consists of Member Roca, who was added since our last meeting, I believe. Member Liptak, I wrote these down so I would forget, Chief of Staff to the Executive Grant Gitlin, Budget Director Cox, and myself. And we are starting to define with council the role of some outside consulting that we expect to need for that. So we expect to have an update on that in the next board meeting or two. And also on April 17th, we hosted information sessions with both our actuary, Acrisure, who provided us some additional information on funding, as well as Mariner, who presented a lot of information related to our private equity and other alternatives portfolio, and they'll be getting into that a little bit today. And that concludes some president updates. Walt, would you walk us through the board approvals?
Absolutely. First on the agenda is a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from the March 20th, 2025 board meeting.
So moved.
Second. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next we can take as one motion, but I'll read them both. So motion to accept the financial statements, which include the pension fund assets, the statement of changes in plan net assets, and the RBAC balance sheet for February and March 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next would be a motion to approve the May invoices totaling $340,824.95.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, next will be the motions to approve pension applications. The first will be a motion to ratify the approval of the following April 2025 applications. The attached applications have been filed with the Retirement Office for pension approval by the board. There were 12 early voluntary and 21 full retirements.
Is there a motion?
Motion. Second.
Hearing a motion in a second, in 3 seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next is a motion to approve the following May 2025 applications. The attached applications have been filed with the Retirement Office for pension approval by the board. There were 3 early voluntary, 8 full retirements, and 1 recalculation.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Next on the agenda is the independent medical examiner's opinion for disability application approvals. The first is a motion to approve that member 092553, upon the recommendation of the 3 designated physicians, is totally and permanently disabled from any gainful employment in Allegheny County.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, so the next is a motion to approve that member 102148, upon the recommendation of the 3 designated physicians, is totally and permanently disabled from any gainful employment in Allegheny County.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next is an independent medical examiner opinion for disability denials. So this is a motion to approve that member 100444, upon the recommendation of the 3 designated physicians, is not totally and permanently disabled from any gainful employment in Allegheny County.
Motion.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we will have a report from our Director Szymanski.
Thank you very much. If you turn to the Directors tab of the monthly board book, I'll highlight some areas on the dashboard. Retiree payroll is up 4.04% as of this time last year. Total contributions made are up 5.5%. Life insurance claims paid are up 21%. Total retirements are up 4.3%. And if you turn to the next page, our pension estimates, once again, will be very high because now we track them in the new system. So we're up quite a number over last year. But everybody is using the calculator, which is good, the online calculator. Capital calls for the month, there was only 1, totaling $17,682.73. And I have the office budget as of April 30th, 2025. Are there any questions on the dashboard?
I don't think so.
None?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So next will be an approval and some updates. So the first is going to be a motion to accept and approve the 2024 audited financial statements and schedules as presented and audited by Case Sabatini. The financial statements will be posted to the website upon acceptance and approval.
Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any discussion in related to the 2024 audited financials from Case Sabatini? Hearing and seeing no discussion, all in favor of accepting them, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, so next are some board updates. The draft audit RFP is included for review. This has been reviewed by the solicitor and the controller's office. We'll bring a final RFP for approval in the June meeting. The draft annual report is included for review. Once again, it's been verified by the controller's office on the financials that are included. There are also 2 class action firms that have submitted proposals to the board for review. The first is from Wolf Popper. They specialize in international securities litigation. The second is Bleachmere Fonte and Auld. They specialize also in securities litigation. These 2 firms could help expand our panel that we currently have. Right now we have 5 with Bernstein, Litowitz, Berger, and Grossman, Grant and Eisenhofer, Lebanon Sucro, Robbins, Geller, Rubin, and Dowd, and the Rosen Law Firm. These are at no cost to the county unless cases are filed and resolved, and a good source of monitoring for the plan. It would just more eyes on what's out there. But once again, those items are just for review and will be brought back in June for approval. And to go along with that, the solicitor and I will also be working on guidelines for the class action filings, and we'll bring a draft of that to the board this summer. So there'll be certain things that need to be met before the board would accept a case. And then also, lastly, the retirement board staff and controller's office staff will be visiting BNY on May 29th. It will be for an update and a reintroduction to our service team members with our custodian.
Thank you. Are there any questions? And also, I think there's some treasurer's office staff will be joining for that.
Yes,
May 29th.
yes, yeah, treasurer's office, yes.
I wanted to note that, this, for the record, that the audit was presented, with a good opinion, right? Presented fairly, so we had a good audit opinion.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah.
All right. That looks like that, was that everything you had?
That's everything I have,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our solicitor's report from Brian Gabriel.
Thank you, Erica. The first item is the solicitor's report, which is current as of May 8th, and just to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions.
It seems we don't have any questions.
The second item is a request for a motion to ratify the board's authorization to BLB&G to accept the settlement offer in the case against Energy Transfer LP in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? I'll just note, you have here to ratify the board's authorization. That's an authorization we made over email last month.
That's correct.
Just to clarify that to folks.
Yes, and that's at the top of page 8 of the solicitor's
Yeah.
report in terms of the date and that recent development.
Yeah. And were there any questions? All right. So we did the motion, we did the second. All in favor of ratifying the board's authorization to accept this energy transfer settlement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much. I have no other items.
Thank you. Next, we have our consultants from Mariner Institutional, Chris Brokaw and Tim Walters.
Great, thank you. If you look in the last tab of your book, Reports Mariner, before I jump into any of the pages, I just want to make a quick comment on the markets that are more up to date than the report, which is through March 31st. There's been a lot of volatility, ups and downs in the market, and it may surprise you or may not surprise you that quarter to date, so since the 1st of April, the broad large cap index, the S&P 500, is actually up 5%. So we had quite a few days of significant down markets, including a -9% day, but that was offset at the end of April with 9 days in a row of positive performance. The international index, the MSCI ACWI, so basically all the stock markets outside of the US, quarter to date is up 6.2%, so since April 1st. So there has been a lot of volatility. You may have noticed it and have questions, concerns, so I did want to make a comment, even though that goes beyond the time period at the end of the report. So unless there's any questions, I'll jump right into the report. Okay. The first section of the book is really a market review. I'm going to go past that and move to page 12, which is the asset allocation in the portfolio. And an item that I want to call out is when you look at the third row down, the row labeled total private equity with life settlements, you can see that allocation, that triangle represents your portfolio. The gray bar represents the range in your investment policy statement, and the black line, the target. You'll see that the portfolio is below the minimum of the target. If you move down to the row labeled total private real estate composite, you can see that there's an offsetting red triangle representing your portfolio that is above the range of private real estate within your investment policy. And you may ask, what was it there last quarter? And the answer is no. The Valstone, you have 3 investments that were in the private equity composite. Valstone real estate investments. They were previously in that private equity composite, therefore characterized as private equity, but in reality, they invest in real estate. So I would call this this action here, and we discussed it a bit at the meeting earlier this quarter, is really reclassifying that investment to where it belongs, the proper asset class. It is a real estate investment. So a logical follow-up question is then, well, what are we going to do about it? And the answer to that is we are going to perform an asset allocation analysis. Last year, it was in the summer, we did an asset liability analysis. This will, excuse me, update that analysis with information that on the portfolio that we've received over the past year, and also with the input and understanding of the future actuarial rate that I understand the board will be deciding on in the coming month or so. So right now, clearly those 2 asset classes are outside of the range. Another important item of note is that this asset is an illiquid asset. So we can't simply say, oh, let's sell this $48 million and move the assets into another asset class. It does have the nature of a long-term contractual commitment that is with extensions, approximately 12 years, and you're still in the middle of that period. Any questions?
I also wanted to add a thing, but are there any questions first?
Yes, how much do we spend on Tic Tacs? It's the largest box of Tic Tacs I've ever seen. So I just wanted to see, that, make sure we might as well invest. If they're producing them that much, it might help our liquidity.
You're getting a deal. It's from Sheets, so you know that it's
as long as we have some money.
that it's a good deal. Yeah, $228 in case you wonder. Yeah.
I'll just, like, for additional perspective for folks who haven't been, hanging out the edge of their seats for every board meeting we've had. We historically have targeted a 20% private equity, and that's been paying out a lot lately, and we're sort of looking at, given our funded status, like if or how we want to extend private equity. But in the analysis, when we moved from the prior consultant we had for our private equity portfolio to Mariner over the past 5 to 6 months, they've really gotten their arms around what was in that private equity portfolio, and about 2/3 of it was private equity. And the other next big hunk was this real estate. And so we just moved it from being wrongly categorized in the private equity into the real estate. And there's like there were some slivers of, I think, like hedge fund and maybe a little bit of venture, but they're very small, and the way they're going to pay out, they're just getting left in the private equity because they'll resolve themselves in the next year or 2. But we felt it important to get the real estate into the right spot. All right, I hand it back to you, sir.
Thank you. excuse me, one more comment on this page. At the bottom of the page, the liquid policy portfolio, the board voted on liquidating that fund, and we've been using it to fund distributions. But fortunately, we've received other distributions over the time period of that we planned on using this for liquidity purposes. So it's still part of the portfolio. This month, just a few days ago, about half of that investment, $8 million, was liquidated and will be used for benefit payments. So probably at the next meeting, that liquid policy portfolio investment will be totally out of the portfolio. A quick comment on distributions. On page 17 and 18, cash flows and changes in the portfolio. If you look at page 17, that net flow column at the very top for the quarter, so the period 1/1/25 through 3/31/25, approximately $11.7 million flowing out of the fund primarily for benefit payments. You can see in that net flows column, the second column of numbers, some of the changes that were approved at the prior meeting, including consolidation of the Emerald portfolio and liquidation of Etho in the U.S. equity. And then in the fixed income section, consolidation with Gridiron and the liquidation of M-Stone. On page 18, you can see as part of this reclassification of the Valstone investments into the real estate portfolio, you can see at the top of page 18 in the real estate section, the last three line items there, Valstone 5, 6, and healthcare, now in the real estate portion of the portfolio. Finally, when you look at the cash account, given various distributions, some of the liquidations in the portfolio, the cash actually increased $762,000 in the quarter and ended the quarter at $15 million.
I have a question back to, you told us about some of the liquidation of the liquid policy portfolio, and I know that was a shift. I'm forgetting when it fell, if it was like in the first quarter that you all can raise cash and tell us about it after the fact up to a certain threshold. Is it just like a verbal notification that gets given to, or maybe that was always the case at a liquid policy portfolio?
Yes.
Remind me what we changed and remind me how
Yes.
it will get reported to us when it gets used.
Absolutely. So what had been the case prior to the board's approval of the new process was we sourced all of the liquidity from the liquid policy portfolio. And that, you may recall, was initially placed in the portfolio to prevent the need for every month having to convene, have a vote as to where the funds come from to meet the liquidity requirements. What the board approved was to meet those liquidity requirements, in anticipation that the liquid policy portfolio is going to be gone, we would work with staff to identify the over-allocated liquid parts of the portfolio and use those to source liquidity when needed. In simple terms, if we looked at last quarter, you were over the target for core fixed income. For international, and so we would have used that as a source of funds.
Okay. So you haven't yet used the new powers that were given, but
Correct.
You expect to be using them in the next few months once the liquid policy is all the way drawn down.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And then we will report back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On page 20, and really this is pages 19 and 20, but you can see the summary in the middle of page 20 labeled private equity composite, again, going to that net flows over the quarter, 758,000 in net flows out of the private equity portfolio. And you see, again, with that reclassification, it's 113 million with, it's almost 50 million in the Valstone that's now in real estate. So ongoing cash flows from various of the 60 or so private equity investments. I wanted to, and maybe I'll just go to page 26, which has the summary information. We talk a lot about cash flows, liquidity. This page, I believe, may be a new page to you, and it summarizes the prior 3 pages, which lay out the liquidity of the various investments in your portfolio. So in straightforward terms, when you look at page 26, 59% of the portfolio has daily liquidity, 5% monthly, 7% quarterly, 1% annually, and really the largest item is that 27.5%, which is illiquid, which is in the private equity type of structure. So a number of your private real estate investments also have this type of structure where they call the capital and then distribute it back to you. So you can't at a meeting decide to liquidate the fund and get the proceeds. They're long-term commitments, many of them 10+ years, or I should say all of them 10+ year commitments. So this summarizes those investments. Page 28. Yes.
Can I ask one more? So in the illiquid, that's basically all of our private equity, a big hunk of our real estate, and then
Yes.
all or some of our infrastructure? Or not infrastructure?
It's really laid out before that on pages 23 through 25, like each individual
Great.
investment.
Yeah, thank you.
But generically speaking, yes, the largest piece is the private equity and other investments that fell into that portion of the portfolio and the private real estate.
Right, and the infrastructure.
Infrastructure, yes, but that is labeled as illiquid, correct. 28. 28 is performance, and in summary, for the quarter, the portfolio at the top line up 0.4%. And if you look at the various asset classes, while I mentioned that the quarter to date, so after the end of this report was positive, the first quarter in the U.S. equity market suffered from concerns about tariffs. It may seem like a long time ago, but that was even before tariffs on China. That was mainly related to Mexico, Canada, and concerns that those tariffs could potentially lead to a recession during this period of time. So the U.S. equity market down. The next line, international, non-U.S. up 5.66% in the quarter and has continued upwards in the second quarter to date. The valuations in international markets better than the U.S., and also the international currencies, non-U.S. currencies, have appreciated in value and supported those returns. So the markets themselves performed positively when the U.S. was negative, and also the strength of the foreign currencies, weakness of the dollar, produced positive returns. In fixed income, interest rates fell, producing positive returns in the quarter. Quarter to date, interest rates have risen a bit, so giving back a portion of those returns. Infrastructure, going down a few rows, that is really income. Those investments, long-term investments, generating income and distributing it to the fund. The liquid policy portfolio, returning in line with the public markets that they hold, slightly negative, and cash with a positive return when the equity market was negative. So a mixed bag for the various asset classes and various markets, but after long period of time with the U.S. equity market outperforming the international markets, there was quite a divergence in returns this quarter, and again, quarter to date, we're seeing some of the same. Any questions on the performance?
No. Thank you.
All right, page 36. Pages 35 and 36 are the report card, scorecard. And one item of note on page 36, Cooks and Pierce is on the watch list. This is the first quarter. Cooks and Pierce has had in its history, when we look at quarter to quarter, there have been some significant positive as well as negative quarters, tracking error relative to the benchmark. So it has seesawed back and forth a bit, but we will address Cooks and Pierce according to the policy, and we will reach out to them and get an update on their portfolio and report back to the board. That was the last comment that I had, last prepared comment that I had. There's a lot of detail in the rest of the book, and it goes really into the individual managers, both in the in the public portfolio as well as private investments, including private equity. So unless there are any questions, that concludes our report.
Any portfolio questions? Wayne Fontana style, any portfolio questions? No, thank you.
Thank you.
And next year, doing a private equity report? Or no? Is that on?
That's included.
Oh, it's in, okay. It was like a little sub item in here. So we covered that.
Yes.
That was with the triangles? Okay.
So, yeah, so when our first report, let's just say there were 80 pages and 50 pages, and now we've tried to weave them together, and also have, like in terms of the liquidity report, where it makes sense to address both the portfolios at the same time, they're included there.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any new business? No new business. Our next meeting will be held on June 19th, and I'm just going to adjourn this meeting. Do I need a motion? It's adjourned.